Hi, it's Richard here, Super Nerd. I don't know the offside rule, don't care. So today I'm just going to be swapping out this socket here, this old one, with the one with the USB here. There's a lack of sockets in this room, and it's just going to make life slightly easier by having those USB sockets in addition to the regular ones. So first thing I'm going to do, take my Stanley knife here, and I'm going to score around the edge where it meets the paint. If I could just try without it, but it'll probably yank some of the paint off, and hey, why not? So let's get to do that. So I've scored around the top and bottom. I did swap out one of these before in a different room. There was all kinds of crap underneath, and it just ended up yanking the whole bottom out with, I don't know what it was filled with. It may be decorator's cork or something, but it made a hell of a mess. So I'm going to take even more care scoring underneath to try and stop that happening on this one. When you swap out these sockets, you do have to be slightly careful about depth. This LAP one says a minimum depth of 25, which is pretty good. And I just happen to know from other sockets in the house that this is pretty deep the way they've recessed them. But yeah, you might want to check that if you're doing such a swap out. So I've nicely scored around the socket now, and particularly underneath where I had problems last time. So I've got my plug tester in, which checks that it's wired up properly, and I'm just going to go and find the right fuse to switch off, and then I'm going to release it and see what we got. Okay, so we can see that this tester is now off. I always advise doing electrics like this in the daytime. Don't do them in pitch black at night, because if all things fail, then you are in the dark, which is not a good thing when you got sockets hanging out or stuff like that. So we've got the screws out. As you can see, it's kind of attached to itself at the bottom. I don't want to yank that out. I'm just going to try and tease it out so that I'm not just dragging loads of paint with me. Fortunately, my nails are quite long today. This is part of being a nerd and being in the beauty industry so long. And we're off. There we go. So that looks pretty good. I can see that the electrics from the 90s, if it's like the other sockets, they've probably wound the earths together. I'm actually going to separate those when I put this back. I think that's what electricians like to do, like to see, so they can do circuit testing, and I'm certainly going to help them out in the future. Yeah, so big gaps around here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this out and sand it down and paint around it, and then come back probably later to fit the socket. That way I'll get a neater finish around the whole thing, because you can never be too sure it's going to have the same footprint. So you know, you don't want a nasty edge around it if you can help it, which I can definitely help it. I'm not in a rush. So as you can see, I've got the socket out, and I can see, like I said, these earth wires have been twisted together here, which apparently a lot of electricians really don't like these days. So I will unwind those. Fortunately, they're not wound up all the way to the very end. And obviously, if you're unwinding things like this, just be gentle. If you were to break it because of, you're bending things backwards and forwards, then you're in a world of pain there. So just be gentle with these wires. I'm actually going to feel around here a bit first, just to make it a slightly neater job. Get rid of these loose bits here. Yeah, so I'm just going to slap a load of filler in there and then go away till later. The position of the live and neutral are quite different on this one compared to the old one, where they were kind of, as you can see, it's on the left there and the right there. So yeah, really close actually, closer than I'd like. But anyway, what I do like about this socket is that you can see the live and neutral from the top when you're kind of wiring in. A lot of them don't have that, in which case I would tend to maybe make a little mark next to the actual thing so I can be doubly sure when I'm wiring back up. But my tester will tell me if I've got them backwards, so it's not so bad. Right, I'm just going to go away and get some filler. Okay, so I've got some filler now. It took a while to find this filler. Problem with these old houses, like the circuit I've turned off basically turns off almost everything, so the garage is plunged into darkness as well for some reason. Yeah, it's pretty cold in the garage as well, so this is quite solid. Certainly not as soft as when I used it last. So I've just worked it a bit. I like to work with kind of using another spatula like a float. This is I found this on the car park floor at B&Q. Someone must have dropped it, and I use it now to kind of work my I put my fill onto here, and then I'll work from this just to get it in there to be as neat as possible. So let's just do it. Yeah, so I've pretty much filled around it now. These things don't have to be perfect. You know, your socket's going to cover most of this. So I filled around it now. It's a bit rough in places, but I'll get the sander out later just to take those edges off. The actual metal socket has been put pretty level with the surface, which I don't like. I wouldn't personally, just kind of like a few mil back from the flush point. But anyway, that's it's going to be deep enough for the thing itself. So we should be good, I think. Yeah. And here's my spatulas afterwards. So yeah, so I put the filler on this, and then I just kind of work it with this, so I can just get a small amount on my smaller spatula, and then just kind of work it into things. Otherwise, you just end up like slapping loads on there, and it just goes everywhere. And I've got an old towel down here. If the wet stuff gets into the carpet, then it's not going to go very far after that. So this is where I'm going to take a big pause, wait for all that to go off and sand later. Because I know I'm the only person here and there's only one going to be here in the near future, I've stuck some terminal block on the cables. I'm going to turn the power back on now. But you absolutely should not do this if you are any chance of anyone else being around, children, obviously, pets. You don't want your dog licking this. So yeah, just because I know there's nothing going to come in the vicinity of this area, I'm just going to leave it like that and go and do my proper job. Right, let's get to the keyboard later. Yeah, so just come back very briefly. One obvious thing I have missed out, of course, is that these are the old colours. So this house is from 96. This is the original rewire, of course. So we've got the old colours here. Got black and red, neutral and live. And of course the socket will be in the new colours, which are blue for neutral and brown for live. So make sure you don't miss that out. Laters. So it's hours later. My filler is all nicely dried. I'm just going to just sand it down, take these rough bits off, and then we'll go from there. And there we go, I've sanded around here a bit so it's all nice and smooth on the edge. I'm actually going to take my Stanley knife and just kind of just using the edge of the thing, just trim those bits off there like that, and just kind of just get to the edge of the, use the edge of the thing as a guide, and just kind of just square that off a bit. I'd rather do that this way rather than having, say, when you're getting the wires in, it actually pushes it out and it might just take a load of the stuff off that you don't want to take off. So I'll just finish that off like this. There you go. Right. And now I'm going to get the paint ready. So we can see I've kind of marked up here a bit, so I'm going to kind of paint up to here with a really just small brush, and I'm just going to kind of go around to there. I'm probably going to paint this wall again at a certain point, so let's get it around the edge of there and it should be good. I've got some of the matching paint here for this wall. If I put the paint on, I'm actually going to paint it with just a very small amount of water, just so that it doesn't kind of suck up the paint immediately, because that's what will happen. The fresh filler will just suck all of the moisture out of your paint, so it's just going to help a slight bit, but you don't have to do this, but if you're quick enough, you can probably just get away with not doing this, to be fair. So that, yeah, I'm just going to do that. Okay. So there you go. I've just painted around it. Some of this old paint I've got that should match. I just added a little dab of water because it was getting a bit thick. I didn't want too many brush strokes in there. So now that's all done, and we'll come back in the morning once it's dry and fit the new thing on it, the new socket. Okay, and we're back. So it's all painted up and dry now. It's the morning. You probably can see that there's not an exact match between this and the wall. It definitely looks white, sort of lighter. I think it just shows how much dirt accumulates on the wall, and this was only painted like a couple of years ago, so never mind. So the power is still on. If you're doing any electrics, you probably would do well to get something like a tester, just to double check. I mean, I know the power's on, but whenever you start faffing around with stuff, you probably want to check that. You can obviously get very expensive testers and stuff like that for proper electricians, but if you're a DIYer, then have that at least. No, you just put it onto the thing you expect there's live and put your finger on the end to earth it. Right, I'm going to turn the power off and let's get this on. And we're back, so power should be off now. So what I'm going to do, take these terminal block off, and then let's keep going. So what I'm going to do first, so I've got they said they're going to go in. I'm just going to make sure they will go in fully like that. I don't like them sitting too proud, and I realise I've gotten some earth sleeving, so I'll need to get some of that in a second. But yeah, those are good to go. What I'm going to do is kind of position the wires roughly where they will go, so they and kind of test to see how they're going to go back into the thing, to make sure. Don't cut them really short. That's a nightmare. If there's wires of this length, just leave them this length. Don't think, oh, that's good, I can just take a bit off that. Just don't do that. you're going to regret it in the future. Yeah, so this new neutral is over here somewhere, so I'm going to kind of bend it around to do that. I think the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to stroke the cables to get some heat into them, and then they will actually, you can manipulate them a lot easier then. It's slightly warm, and there's an amount of copper in there, so I'm just going to do that and reposition. Back in a sec. So I've kind of got my wires bent, so they will definitely go in okay. And clearly you can just wire them in and just kind of shove them in anyhow, but if this kind of makes life slightly easier, and just make sure that, you know, it's got to go back further than that, further than, you know, flush on the front. And they all do. This red one is quite long, so I just try to kind of bend it into the corner around so it'll go in. Like I said, just don't cut them, because, you know, who knows what future technology will require. Although I imagine a lot of professionals say, oh, we'll just rewrite the whole house. Old colours, boo, we don't like those. Anyway, and obviously this earth is insanely long. It has to go here. So yeah, I'll just try and bend that round, but obviously there's a lot thinner wire, a lot easier to manipulate. So I need to get some earth sleeving first. So I've got my earth sleeving here. So the way I tend to do this, I just kind of just push it on and kind of guess how much will be left and then I just bend the end over, because, you know, this is softer than cut there. So I'll do the same on both of those. So I've got the line. It's obviously too long, so, you know, you can always snip off, but you can't add. So I just pull that forward, and then, you know, just trim a little bit off the end, so they're the same. Put back down, they look about the same, so that's pretty good. And then I'll bend that around, and just going to wire them in now. So we're all wired in now. And remember, we're going old colours to new colours, so the black is going to the blue and the red is going to the brown. And our earth is in there. Just kind of make sure they're nice and tight. And then I'll shove that back into the wall. Okay, and because I bent the wires to where I want them to go, it went back into the wall quite easily. I've got my new screws here in the pack. These caps, throw those away. I don't like those. It could be a pain if you want to take them off again. So yeah, just screw it back. Pretty much done. So it's all screwed in now, and obviously you want to make sure it's level, which it is. It's nice and tight. So we're back, power's on, so let's switch this on. See, that's working fine. If you've got this, I'll do an electrical test on here and make sure none of that's live. The live wire is there. If you screwed this in and caught the live wire and like compressed it, then that would end up being live, so that would be very bad. And I guess finally I should actually check the USB sockets. Right. And got that USB device working. That's all good too. Then we'll try the other one. And we're done. Tidy up time. That's all good. Thanks for watching. If you got this far, well done. I must get back to my computer.